What's up everybody? On today's video, we are once again looking at deportation arrests from Sarasota, Florida. We have been working diligently to obtain body cam footage of immigration arrests in the state of Florida. So far, every law enforcement agency from which we have requested these types of footage has denied our request. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office does not release body cam footage. The body cam footage that we've been able to receive is from the city of Sarasota. However, it seems that most, if not all, of the immigration arrests that are taking place in this county are being done by the sheriff's office, not by the city of Sarasota. Thus, it is impossible to obtain body cam footage to get accountability from these agencies on how immigration arrests are taking place. We've also reached out to U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, ICE, and other agencies to give us information, statistics, and body cam footage of these arrests, and we have not received any replies. Thus, when it comes to arrest of undocumented people in Florida, the only thing we have to go by is the county's arrest logs and when they place an immigration hold on somebody who is in custody. It is important for us to know that as of right now, no law enforcement agency in Florida has replied to our request or accepted to give us body cam footage of immigration type arrest. How these arrests are being implemented in the state or a complete mystery. It is imperative that we have video footage of law enforcement detentions and arrests because many times law enforcement agencies extort or steal from individuals being detained, especially those who are being arrested for deportations, an absolutely common practice. In fact, you may recall that less than a year ago in Fort Myers, Florida, a police officer was arrested for extorting migrants that he was pulling over. Now imagine that, law enforcement agencies that have already been documented for extorting and stealing from people who are undocumented carrying out mass immigration arrests. What do you think is really happening behind the scene here? Well, we couldn't get any body cam footage to know, but we know the obvious that many times these individuals are having their money stolen from them, other times they're being extorted, and because there's absolutely no transparency from these agencies, there's no accountability on all the money, properties, and extortions that they are doing to the undocumented that are being deported. You go figure that before these deportation orders became a common practice, they were already being arrested for extorting undocumented migrants. Imagine now with mass deportations and body cams off. The reputation of these agencies is to extort undocumented people with their body cams on. So imagine now with body cams off and no accountability, the racket that must be going on. Crea fama y acuéstate a dormir. Your name speaks for you. Your reputation speaks for you. Once you make a name for yourself, there's no need to speak. Everybody already knows what time it is. People really like to feel and believe that these ICE arrests are happening under impartiality and fair conditions. You can tell yourself whatever you want to excuse something that's wrong. People just like to be comforted with the notion that law enforcement always does things accordingly and correct. But like I said, if they were doing things correct, we would be getting body cam footage for these arrests, but none of it exists. Even those arrests that would normally have body cam footage, when we request them, we can't obtain them because the person's being deported. So this is a complete lack of transparency. People like to believe that if you request a Freedom of Information Act for any arrest, that there should be a public record for that. But in the case of immigration arrest of any sort, so far we have had zero luck obtaining any of this footage. Even footage that wasn't conducted by a particular agency doing ICE arrest. When a county or city or any other arresting agency makes an arrest and it gets pushed over for an ICE hold, we haven't been able to receive the body cam footage. Anyways, you're going to notice that the arresting agency on today's video are always those that do not have body cam footage as a regular protocol, and that the ones that do have body cam footage as a regular protocol that you can just request, those agencies are not making these types of arrests. So it's pretty straightforward. You are not going to see a single video of an immigration ICE arrest. And if you do, it's going to be a hand-selected pick for the media, something that law enforcement is hand-feeding, hand-selecting to the public. But if you want to make a Freedom of Information Act for a specific arrest, forget about it. It doesn't exist. So you can make your public records request if you want to, but believe me, if they don't want you to see that footage, you're not going to get to see it. If it was a great thing that's being done, you'd be seeing these footages left and right. It's a rewarding thing. They brag about their arrests that they make, but there's no bragging about this. If you've seen the videos that have shown up online about immigration arrests, usually by a neighbor or somebody nearby that sneaks a camera through a window, you can hear women screaming, children screaming, people crying in agony. There's nothing photogenic about these situations and these arrests. So it really isn't as beautiful as people would want it to be. And if you believe that it's being done in a clean and, due process type manner, bless your heart. Common practices being reported right now in Florida is individuals being accused of getting arrested for a DUI and then getting deported before they have a chance to have that case heard. In other words, all you need is a law enforcement officer to accuse you of something. You get arrested, get an ICE deportation hold before you get a chance to defend your case. You're already reported. So the legality of that initial arrest has absolutely no legal bearing because you've already been deported. It's an entrapment. Mexican national, not a U.S. citizen, arrested in Sarasota for the worst type of battery that exists. He's not a U.S. citizen, so most likely he's going to get that ICE deportation hold. He lives in this trailer park here on the north side of Sarasota. Many times you'll see people posting footage of people getting arrested in places like this, and people claim that they're ICE immigration busts, but they're not. They're targeting specific individuals like this guy right here who committed a very specific crime. Immigration lawyers are making a killing right now, giving hope to the undocumented communities that if they pay a lawyer a huge sum of money, that they're somehow miraculously going to prevent them from being deported. It's an absolute extortion and a racket that these lawyers are running, preying on people who are scared and vulnerable about their legal status, promising them something that is impossible to realize. When it comes to deportations right now, you're either a citizen or you are not. We like to believe that law enforcement and lawyers have the best interests for the people. However, there are a lot of people right now who are taking advantage of their vulnerable and fearful situation that undocumented people are in the United States. Whether it's law enforcement agencies who are robbing and extorting these people, or lawyers who are practically doing the same thing on paper. Anytime a community becomes vulnerable, there's always somebody who preys upon them, taking advantage of other people's misfortune to make a racket. This 37-year-old individual was arrested in the city of Sarasota for possession of meth with intent to distribute. Looking at his address on the internet, I discovered that I recently had this guy as an Uber passenger late at night. He was born in Indiana and despite being 37 years old, lives in this large compound in Sarasota with his parents. If I remember correctly, he told me he had his driver's license suspended. It's crazy to think that I had somebody in the backseat of my car late at night who was arrested for possession of meth with intent to distribute. This is Dante. He was arrested in Sarasota, Florida with a Bradenton arrest. He's listed as 44 years old and unemployed. Now, Dante's charges include battery on a pregnant victim, criminal mischief, and Colombian powder. It's clear to see that not every person who commits horrendous crimes is an illegal. Many times some of the most horrendous crimes we hear about are U.S. citizens. However, despite all the problems we have with the local population, law enforcement agencies are heavily focused on making immigration arrests. And these immigration arrests that we're reviewing are just like over the last 2 or 3 days. It's just to give you an idea how many immigration arrests are being made in Sarasota. This Guatemalan individual was just arrested yesterday in Sarasota. His charges include no valid driver's license and DUI out of Lee County, Florida. There is an ICE immigration hold for him in Lee County. He lists his occupation as a tile installer. So this guy has been in Fort Myers, Bradenton, but he got jammed up in Sarasota. I've been eager to get body cam footage for this type of arrest, just like I jumped through their hoops to get you guys those homeless arrests. However, the law enforcement agencies in Florida simply do not want to give us this footage. There's always an excuse or a reason why they can't do it. Now, I've had lawyers, interestingly enough, tell me that they can get it for me instantly in a few days, but I have to pay them close to $1,000. This young lady right here is Alma Cepeda. She is originally from Honduras. She's not a U.S. citizen. She lives over there in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and she was arrested in Sarasota for grand theft and uttering false banknotes. Imagine that. The young lady is not a U.S. citizen, and she's over here defrauding and scamming on a large scale. It's not her first time doing this. She traveled all the way to Sarasota to do it. This young lady is running a racket with economic crimes all across the state of Florida while living here illegally. What do you think we should do with people like that? Let's put her in a recovery program and see if she gets better. That recovery program is called Deportation. It's not her first rodeo. She lives in this neighborhood right here. You can see the bicycles outside. Lots of illegals live here in Hollandale, Florida, right outside of Fort Lauderdale. The notion that she traveled somewhere else to commit these crimes should just give you an idea of how elaborate her scheme was. This is premeditated. She knew exactly what she was doing, and these are not her first victims. This is somebody who dedicates themselves to economical crimes in the United States while living here illegally. Now meet John. He was born in Indiana, lives in the Sarasota area. He claims to be a handyman. Now this U.S. citizen was arrested for something kind of similar. He was going around pretending to be a contractor, engaging in contracting business without a license, grand theft between $10,000 to $20,000, and of course he had no insurance for the work he was doing. This individual here was also engaged in economic crimes. Both for U.S. citizens and for illegals, economic crimes have become a viable source of income for many people in the state of Florida who devise clever ways to steal from other people. If you hire somebody to do contracting work in your house, and the work that they do isn't done by a contractor, they pretend to be a contractor, they're committing grand theft because the work that they're doing for you is a forgery. They are selling you work that is not what they're telling you it is. So they're stealing the money from you by telling you they're a contractor. The final product that hasn't been done according to code by somebody who is legally licensed, the work becomes invalid. Thus, the money that they paid for the work consists of a grand theft. He is selling you his labor fraudulently. And he's a U.S. citizen. He's not an illegal doing it. Of course, I had to look up his address, and it would be a nightmare to be this guy's neighbor. Look at the amount of garbage he has, abandoned vehicles, trailers, ATVs, all that in a Sarasota neighborhood. This guy has to be an absolute menace to this community. Can we please deport this guy back to Indiana with all his garbage? Kay Dominguez Perez, born in Michigan. She says she's a massage therapist but does it out of a hotel room. That's her address. She was arrested for possession of meth and having a fraudulent rental property. Both of these things are a violation of her probation. It would be interesting to know how this crime actually unfolded, but if I had to take an educated guess, she's not a massage therapist. She's doing something a little more sinister with her hands. And if she had possession of meth, she's not an elaborate fraudulent scammer. She was actually renting out her hotel room to other people, likely other homeless people. Probably they were engaging in prostate tubing. There weren't no colonoscopies or massage therapists in this hotel room in Sarasota. There was something a little bit more informal. Regardless, the formality of her charges means the seriousness which the Sarasota Sheriff's Office is taking her actions. Once again, we can see that fraud, scamming, and crimes of that nature have become very prevalent in the Sarasota area. Can we please deport her back to Michigan? Talking about Uber driving, right here's another hotel, and this is Lakewood Ranch, a nice area. You wouldn't believe the things that I see at these hotel exits off of Sarasota when it comes to women who are engaging in prostate tubing. They're having clandestine colonoscopy done in hotel rooms, and of course, the possession of meth goes hand in hand with that. You guys wouldn't believe the criminal undercurrent that exists here in these hotels in the Sarasota area. I had a young lady that I dropped off at a hotel right here on this exit, and this young lady had multiple stops. She was picking up Ziploc bags. She was picking up a specific type of coconut milk from a Mexican store. All the things that she was picking up were consistent with the fact that she was going to cook up some cookies, and I'm not talking about chocolate chip. And of course, a whole backstory trying to convince me, the Uber driver, that she had a baby back at the hotel room, and that's why she needed a specific type of coconut milk, because the baby was picky. I'm sure her babies were very picky. I think since she thought she was pulling the wool over my head, I played a song like this, Plies 36, just to subtly let her know that I'm not retarded. And that's what I've been doing with Uber passengers lately. When I get somebody that's trying to pull the wool over my head about what they're doing, I'll be like, oh yeah, man, that's good. You're taking care of your kids. You're a good mom and everything. And then I'll play a song that's kind of passive aggressive, that kind of denotes that I understand the context, while acting like I don't understand the context. They want to pull the wool over my head. You want to play games? I'll play games too. But you go figure, a massage therapist getting arrested for a property rental scam and meth, living out of a hotel room in Sarasota. What has the world come to? And the crazy thing is, law enforcement will most likely go after one of these work trucks than they will after somebody doing stuff like this. And that's really the sad thing. And the guy that was distributing meth, he lives east of 75 in Lakewood Ranch. So you got people using and distributing here in Lakewood Ranch out of hotels. What a mess. Just a few days ago, I was outside my apartment in Lakewood Ranch, and a stranger came up to me and offered me synthetic THC. 21-year-old construction worker born in the United States was arrested. He's being charged now with attempted murder and shooting a missile from a vehicle into a building, basically a drive-by type charge. He had other criminal charges, but they've been upgraded to something more serious now. With as many people who risk their lives to come to the United States illegally, it's crazy to see somebody 21 years old, born in this country, just throw their whole lives away in an instant. Carlos is a Salvadorian landscaper. He was arrested in the Sarasota area and now has an ICE immigration hold. I tried to look up his address, but it seems like it doesn't exist. It's a fictitious address, or it was input incorrectly. You know, one thing I've noticed about these immigration arrests, there's not a lot of effort to input the information correctly. In fact, if you read the page's website description, it clearly says this information doesn't have to be accurate. It's like an entire disclaimer thing they have on their arrest records. Like this individual arrested yesterday in Sarasota, they're being held for ICE and immigration, but their arrest records list them as being a U.S. citizen. You got to take this stuff with a grain of salt. Obviously, if he's getting deported, he's not a U.S. citizen. So we can see that every single day, at least 3 to 4 people in Sarasota are being arrested for immigration-related charges. Many of them are from other parts of the state that come here to work, perhaps, because there's a lot of work in this area, and they end up getting jammed up by the police departments. Not so much the city of Sarasota, but the county of Sarasota. Now today I did request the body cam footage for this woman who was arrested in Sarasota. I met her on a sidewalk. She is on a wheelchair. She's disabled. According to her, she's partially blind. I could definitely tell there was some type of mental disorder. She was arrested for paraphernalia, trespassing, and failure to leave a property. Basically, these are common homeless charges. We've requested the body cam footage. I do believe we'll get it. Sarasota City is very prompt. I believe in 2 to 3 weeks we'll have this footage, and I'll see how much I have to pay to obtain this footage. Now, so far, I've requested several of these body cam footages. You have to pay for it. It's not free. And I'm not making any money on any of these. I'm actually losing money, so there's no money to be made doing this. The ones that get the body cam footage and they start the YouTube channels, they're making money on it because they're getting millions of views. But, you know, we're kind of doing a local thing here. None of this is like national news or anything like that. Homeless arrest, it will be the 3rd one that we request from Sarasota, and I do believe we'll obtain it. I have 3 or 4 other Freedom of Information Act requests in the air right now. Some counties like Manatee take decades to provide it. Some like Corder County are telling me they're just not going to give it to me. Alright guys, there it is. Those are the recent immigration arrests over the last few days in the Sarasota area. Some of these individuals are committing some horrible crimes, and their deportation is very warranted. Others may have just been trying to get to work. Regardless, if you drive without a valid driver's license, you know the package that comes with. It's crazy to think how many people that I've had as Uber passengers I see getting arrested here in the Sarasota area. Many people use these Uber rides as a way to commit illegal activities and try to pawn off the responsibility on somebody else for their criminal activities. Or maybe if they're in a random Uber, they feel more undetectable or anonymous while engaging in criminal activity. Perhaps they feel it's harder to track them. Regardless, I have noticed that many of the people that get arrested in Sarasota just happen to be people I've had as Uber passengers. And without a doubt, when I see what the things they're getting arrested for, it isn't a surprise to me, because as an Uber driver, when you get somebody sketchy, sometimes you can just feel it in your gut they're up to something bad. In fact, your gut instinct is almost always right. I'm going to show you guys a footage of a passenger that I had that just gave me all the bad vibes, and I sent him to walk. Check it out.
I asked you to turn down the volume. What's the issue?
I don't like your attitude you're going. I don't like your vibe. You're right.
Turn left on San
You're going to talk on the phone the whole time? I'm not up for that.
Might, yeah.
Well, then find somebody else, dude. That's rude.
You don't allow people to be on the phone. And
I don't like your attitude, man. You're gone. I don't like you. That's it.
Okay.
Tell me which house it was.
The one right after the flag, and I will give you a horrible rating.
I don't give a crap, dude. You're the one being rude.
I'm not being rude either. After the flag.
You know what? Since I'm being rude, get out right here. Get out. Bye. Find somebody else. You got a bad rating already, so I can tell you're going to be a problem.
Me?
Bye. Get out. Your gut instinct is almost never wrong. Now, this guy right here was going to the airport. It's very difficult to catch a ride to the airport that's problematic, but this guy was disrespectful, and I'm just not going to tolerate it. I'm at the point with Uber where most of the time when somebody gets in the car, if I instantly get a bad vibe off them, I just tell them, hey man, the ride's over. Now usually they agree to it and I take them back to their destination. This guy wanted to argue and fight and threaten me, and he did retaliate by giving me a bad review. But at the end of the day, as an Uber driver, you have to follow your gut instinct. And if somebody makes me feel uncomfortable, even if there's no underlying issue, if you make me feel uncomfortable, I'm kicking you out, because I already have figured out that you can avoid 95% of the problems while Uber driving if you simply do not cater to people who have a bad vibe. Your gut instinct is almost never wrong. When somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to stay in that situation. Now, Uber drivers know that when a passenger has a bad rating, you block them. You don't pick them up. They're not compatible. Because he was going to the airport, I gave him a chance, and boy was I wrong for doing that. Again, if I had just followed my gut instinct, when I saw his bad rating, I should have passed on the ride. Your gut instinct is almost never wrong. And by the way, it wasn't the fact that he was having a conversation on the phone. It was the nature of the conversation he was having on speakerphone that was unacceptable. Besides that, it's about a 45-minute ride from Lakewood Ranch to the airport, and I'm not going to sit here in bumper-to-bumper traffic for 45 minutes listening to him have an angry rant on the phone. All the while, he's telling me that I had to lower the volume on my Uber GPS. Go figure. This guy wanted me to turn down the volume on the Uber GPS because it was bothering his phone conversation. Who the crap told you you got the right to tell me what to do with the volume of the Uber GPS? It's my car, dude. I'm giving you a ride. He had to walk, man, and he's lucky I brought him back to the place where he originated. And looking back on the fact that he hurt my account by giving me a bad review, I should have left him right there where he was at. He should have walked with his luggage on a hot day.